bold journalist,
but Drew Hernandez is a strong-minded individual.
exposing lawlessness.
Drew Hernandez, who is ideological,
finding the truth,
and use the word Antifa.
This is what they do.
battling
They're
mainstream
liars. The woke mob, all they can do is lie.
These are the front lines.
What's going on, thought criminals? Welcome to Frontlines. I am your host, Drew Hernandez. We have a very special episode tonight for Friday night. The great TPUSA contributor and host Lauren Chen is going to be joining me shortly to talk about the current status of where we are in terms of how the left, we all know that they're propagandists, but we really do have to talk about how effective they are with their messaging. It's emotional manipulation, it's mind manipulation. It is an information warfare, but it needs to be talked about. It obviously has to be exposed, and we have to pinpoint how we can move forward with meeting them where they are at with messaging that combats at the same level as well. I think it's an interesting conversation that needs to take place because we are seeing their messaging become pretty effective, not with you guys that watch at home, but with literal woke-tard like lemming people that are just, you know, the general public that watches one ad on YouTube that pops up and decides who they're going to vote for, like right there, right? We're talking about that type of individual with Lauren when we come up. But before we begin, inside every progressive is a totalitarian screaming to get out. And the team at Front Page Magazine has been unmasking these totalitarians since the earliest days of the internet. Founded by David Horowitz, Front Page Magazine has spent over 2 decades fighting the radical left's efforts to destroy America. Front Page's talented roster of authors will help you stay up to date with the latest trends in American conservatism. I have no doubt that you'll enjoy the content that they are publishing on a regular basis. As you know, it takes a village to fight the radical left's efforts to destroy America. That's why, as a fan of my show, you should also check out these guys over at Front Page Magazine by visiting frontpagemag.com. And while you're there, support their cause by making a tax-deductible donation. Go to frontpagemag.com. My name is Drew Hernandez. You are now on the front lines. Lauren Chen, thank you for joining me today. Let's just get straight into this. Lauren, you're awesome. Just remind the people who you are, what you do, where they can find your show, and all that good stuff before we hear your great takes.
Sure. Like you said, my name is Lauren. I'm very happy to be a TPUSA contributor. You can find me essentially every place that there are videos posted. I am on YouTube. I am on Rumble. I am on Odyssey, BitChute. My channel name is just Lauren Chen. But if you want extra videos, I also talk about pop culture, TV shows on my second channel, Mediaholic. On Twitter, I'm at the Lauren Chen. I'm pretty much everywhere. It's hard to get rid of me.
And that's true because you've been around for a while. You're one of the OGs, dude. So it's great to have you on my show. It's always a privilege and an honor. So let's talk about the left's messaging, right? Because, you know, whether the right wants to admit it or not, okay, they're very good. They're very effective. The messaging that these people use, okay, specifically when they target women, right? Let's talk about the abortion issue. All I saw anytime I turned on YouTube or any video app was some kind of ad talking about how some kind of right-winger wants all women to die and doesn't care if they get raped. Like, I'm pretty sure everyone watching this saw the same thing. But to us, right, the information fact-based individuals that don't function off of feelings, we see that and we could see right through it, right? But
right.
is this is obviously intentional. What are your takes on how they emotionally manipulate the general public with this kind of messaging?
Well, I think you have to understand that the media is absolutely 100% controlled by the left. So when it comes to the issue of abortion, a lot of people might say, oh, well, you know, the general culture, it's not in support of abortion. Most people are pro-choice. That is true to a point. If you look at what people actually believe, almost nobody supports something like a abortion allowance up until the point of birth, which is what some people on the left are actually advocating for at this point. And if you look at globally, you see that, I mean, abortion restrictions, they're not out of the norm because science tells us, and this isn't even religious, but science tells us that yes, life does begin at conception. And, you know, especially when we're talking about fetal viability, yeah, especially at 20 weeks, that baby has a chance of surviving outside of the womb. So when we're talking about aborting something that late, it really is, it's pure infanticide. There's no other way to put it. it. The general public, once you explain this to them, they understand this and they are not supportive of late-term abortions. But the media, what they have done is they're crafty and frankly, they're outright liars. I've seen people say that the right wants to ban miscarriages and things like treatment for ectopic pregnancies, which is absolutely not the case. And we also see the left now trying to conflate miscarriage with abortion. Chrissy Teigen very infamously previously had a miscarriage, but is now trying to rebrand it as an abortion to say, oh, well, if the right had been in charge, I would have died. That's absolutely not the case. This is about protecting the sanctity of life for the unborn, not about penalizing women in any way. But you wouldn't know that watching the media. And unfortunately, the left has just been so effective in controlling the narrative when it comes to this issue. And what's frustrating to me is that you have people on the right now who see that, okay, this is not very popular to be pro-life. And instead of trying to change the messaging or take control of the narrative, they would instead rather pander to the left and say, okay, you know what, maybe abortion is good. It's like, I'm sorry, if that's your takeaway from this, I have no respect for you because you're not a fighter, you're a coward. You'd rather bend the knee than actually change your optics and your presentation to become more effective.
Absolutely. And it's like, it's always this going back on defense, getting put back on your heels, getting sat down and having to like really reevaluate where these people have you at. And it's like, if we just continue to go further on offense and dominate with the narrative, dominate in the mainstream. But part of the big problem as well is we do have rhinos that kind of like facilitate these narratives and these messages that go forward saying, oh, well, maybe we should be a little more tolerant to, slaughtering babies because we got a bunch of women here in the United States that just seem to believe the lies that are coming out. I mean, it's so effective. Did you see I think it was a campaign ad from Congressman Eric Swalwell, where it was like a woman getting raided by like police or like the FBI. And it was like, oh, like the whole family is like getting traumatized because she's the government showing up to her house because she had an abortion in her past, and now they're going to arrest her and throw her in jail forever. I mean, I thought that was like kind of based, but I think murder should be, you know what I mean? I thought it was based, but the emotionally manipulated, they see that and they're just kind of like, oh my God. That has to be the response. Let me ask you as a female, okay? Speak for females. Is it like an emotional manipulation of females or not? What do you think it is?
It is, like most propaganda that the left puts out, it is absolutely based on emotional manipulation. And I'm just going to come right out and say it. That type of messaging is absolutely more effective when it comes to women. So now you have an entire generation, specifically Gen Z, who overwhelmingly support these, radical abortion policies. And it is because they have been lied to in many ways. They've been lied to about what happens with fetal development. Now the left is outright going into science denial by saying that, oh no, it's actually not a heartbeat at 8 weeks. I'm sorry, I had a baby. It's a heartbeat. All right. And there's never been a woman in recent history that had access to an ultrasound who was told anything other than this is your baby's heartbeat at the 8-week ultrasound. It wasn't, oh, this is an electrical impulse. Like, no, this is revisionism because they're trying to cover up the fact that yes, these babies are alive. They are distinct people. We also have, feminism in regard to sexual promiscuity playing into this. A lot of women fear that, oh no, if I'm not allowed to abort my child, all of a sudden there will be consequences to my actions. It's like there are consequences regardless. Abortion is just a very brutal way of erasing those consequences. But there are so many different ways that the leftist narrative is now invested in abortion that they really go all in on this issue. And, I just have to believe for the sake of my own sanity that this is ignorance, because if I start to believe that, no, they just willfully support the destruction of life, I wouldn't know what to do with myself. But this is something that we need to change our messaging. Clearly, the answer is not to surrender. And I think, we're starting to talk now on the right about how important it is to remove the propaganda from education. This is just a great example of that.
So what would you suggest? Let's talk about education. What would you suggest? Lauren Chen is a congresswoman. Lauren Chen is a senator. Lauren Chen is the president of the United States. What would, or let's just say Lauren Chen controlled the media, right? What would your messaging be right now to communicate to the general public the realities of abortion, especially to women?
Right. Well, Well, it's interesting because the left always says that we need more education when it comes to sex ed, right? They love talking about sex ed, but at least when I was in school, a big part of sex ed was actually learning about human reproduction. Just biologically speaking, this is what's happening in your body when you get pregnant. I think information is absolutely on the side of pro-life, right? This isn't just about religion. This isn't just about the sanctity of life. We're actually talking about biologically, medically what happens, and we see that educating people on what happens during a pregnancy and what happens during an abortion, it does sway people toward the pro-life side. Education is on our side in this regard, which is exactly why we see the left now coming out and lying to people about what abortion entails, what the fetal development actually looks like. We saw The Guardian. I mean, they've published outright lies saying, oh no, this isn't actually what a fetus looks like at this many weeks. It's because it's a person and it looks like a person because it is. And so I think we really actually need to be bold in the fact that the facts are on our side, because we know that the left, they wouldn't be shying away from the issue if they actually had science on their side. So I just wish we had the same, I guess, boldness when it comes to our positions that they do. So that's one thing. Another thing is that parents absolutely need to be more involved in their schools, because most parents, even leftist parents themselves, I don't think they want activists in the classroom, but unfortunately that's what we see more and more. And since COVID, we saw that there's been a huge backlash amongst parents saying, hang on a second, I didn't know that this was going on in my child's classroom because of distance learning and Zoom classes. I was actually privy to what my kids are learning. I'm not okay with it. And so there's this big resurgence, a parental interest in what's going on in the classroom. We see parents going to school board meetings, running for different positions. That absolutely needs to happen more often. And aside from that, I also think that, look, if you're a parent, it doesn't matter where you live, you should have a right to the type of school that your child is going to. So all of this is about getting more control to the parents and more information in the classroom, less bias. If you're a leftist and you're watching this and you disagree with any of those points, then I really have to wonder what your motives are.
I think it's clear, it's like a death cult. It literally is a death cult, because when you're in a cult, you have no brain, you have no knowledge, you have no outside knowledge. I mean, take a look at North Korea. I mean, take a look at the history of cults. That's exactly what we're seeing right now. And it's like this common thread with abortion and also with the trans, movement and agenda, where this lack of information, where they sell you this dream, right? They sell women the dream of that the grass is greener on the other side. You will be able to fulfill your dreams if you kill your child. If you're stuck with the child, you will not be able to selfishly live out your dreams that you were destined to live out, right? It's the same with the trans agenda, because they tell the kids, right? They tell the kids, you're not happy. You're going to hate your life forever. You're stuck in a body that you don't want to be in. So if you get this surgery, the grass will be greener on the other side. And look what happens. They're devastated. They're destroyed. And that bit of information is being left out constantly for financial gain. We all know why. But Lauren is absolutely correct. It is an information game and war. And they leave out information because that is how you control somebody's mind, literally. Lauren, it's true. I want you to respond to what I said before we went to break. With these people leaving out information, critical information, to control the minds of people, we see this common thread in the abortion and the trans conversation. For those that are just joining us, what's your response to that?
Well, I think this just illustrates how the left are bad actors, right? I want people to be able to make informed decisions. That's what the concept of informed consent is. But constantly we see leftists trying to block information from people. When it comes to abortion, for example, leftists hate the idea of actually, we're going to show a woman an ultrasound of the baby, because guess what? Most of the time, once a woman actually learns that, hang on, this is a life inside of me, she does thankfully choose the pro-life decision. But leftists would rather have women in the dark and afraid and really just ignorant of what's actually happening in their bodies. When it comes to the trans movement, we see a number of detransitioners coming out and saying, hang on a second, I wasn't told about this side effect. I wasn't told that perhaps this gender dysphoria would desist once I got older. This is information that they're willfully trying to keep from not only parents, but also these children themselves, to encourage transition. And I think if you are trying to keep people in the dark, then you should really examine whether your ideology is true or not, whether you have these people's best interests or not, more information is always better. So be very critical of those who are trying to silence voices or tell you, no, don't look over here, only look over in this direction. And I think because the left controls things like the media, like the education system, like social media, it is getting easier and easier for them to keep people in the dark. And this isn't just about the trans movement or about abortion. The same thing is also true for immigration, right? We see nonstop that there is just openness on the southern border. There are people pouring in. And instead of saying, coming out and actually being honest and saying, yes, we're just pro open borders. We want more of these people. We don't actually want people who wait for their turn in line, apply legally, come in the right way. We would rather just have a free for all because we kind of want to subvert the nation. No, instead of that, what do we see from all of these leftist activists? They will lie to people, say, oh, it's not happening. But if it's happening, it's a good thing. But oh no, it's not happening. And you really just have to understand that these are slippery folks that we're dealing
Lauren, you are 100% spot on. Let's play this clip to prove Lauren's point. Here's the Texas border town mayor, okay, claiming that the border crisis is not an invasion, but is a humanitarian crisis. Notice the messaging. Take a look.
What I see here, by the way, I disagree with the governor regarding the immigration as invasion trope, because this type of rhetoric has resulted in discriminatory immigration policies throughout American history. So no, now it is a humanitarian crisis, and we have to call it for what it is. It is a crisis, there's no doubt. And we must address it from, of course, Washington, D.C. having the answers. Now.
You're right.
Slippery. And it's funny because the left likes to talk about this humanitarian crisis when it comes to the border with Mexico. But if you recall, recently, not that long ago, there was a humanitarian crisis in Cuba. There's one that's actually ongoing. And all of a sudden, the left seemed a lot more hesitant to bring in boatloads of refugees. If you ask me, it's because, well, Cubans, quite understandably, are not leftists by and large. They're actually pretty critical of the ideology that oftentimes drives them from their home. So, I mean, this is all about political expediency when it comes to the left. They're very cynical about it, and unfortunately also very effective about it. And, the left loves to say that if you're for any type of border policy that makes you white supremacist, you name it. But if you poll different communities who are also non-white, whether that's the Black community and even the Latino community themselves, guess what? It's not a racial issue to say if you're coming to a country, you have to follow the laws of that country.
It's just kind of normal. But we know these people have, we know these people have a lawless agenda because that is how they just do whatever they want. You have to have lawlessness to do whatever the hell you want. That is why they want to defund the police. That is why they want to attack law and order, not to just do away with it entirely. They want to replace it, okay? People need to understand, like they want to replace it. So when they install their regimes, they install their power figures like the John Fetterman puppets and the President Joe Biden puppets. They just do whatever the hell they want. That's how it worked. That's how it's always worked. You get people in there that are controllable so they don't question anything. It's very simple. But I want to show you guys just how really far this goes, okay? Christ said in the last days, the love of many is going to grow cold, right? It's going to wax cold. We are definitely seeing that. Here's this video. I wanted your reaction to this, Lauren. I don't know if you've seen this yet, but it's like viral everywhere. Here's a daughter slamming her dead father, eulogizing her father at his funeral as a racist Trump lover. Take a look.
Dad, please know that while I am grateful and highly aware of all that you've given this family, I still don't miss you. When you died, I felt like there was a hole. I missed something, but it wasn't you. It was the idea of what you could become. I missed being able to hope and wish that one day you turn a corner and see the world from my perspective. I missed the idea that one day you might help me fight for the things that matter. I missed my fantasy of you. Because when you died, it solidified the fact that you'll never be what you could have been, but only what you are. And what you are is a racist, misogynistic, xenophobic, Trump-loving, cis-straight white man. That is all you will ever be to me. And Dad, before you tell me to respect the dead, please remember that you disrespected and disregarded the lives and deaths of entire communities of people with your ideology. You told me to never back down, so I won't. You know for a fact that even against you, I'm not afraid to share my peace. You are everything I aspire not to be, and I refuse to stand up here and sing the praises of a man who was the paradigm of white supremacy. So I'll take your racist mindset, I'll take your money, and I'll take your advice. And I swear to God I will make this world a better place, not at all because of you, but in exact opposition to you. Thank you.
and they clap. I mean, that's where we're talking about this messaging and propaganda. That's how far this goes.
No, absolutely. And we've seen this historically in places like the Soviet Union. In totalitarian regimes, families are absolutely atomized, right? It's a concept that breaks down our social ties to each other in loyalty to the state or to whatever regime we may be talking about. Here, it's the cult of social justice. And I've seen people say in response to this particular clip, oh, well, he may not have been a good dad at all. Like, we don't know what was going on behind the scenes. It's like, okay, that's fair. I'm not saying that every parent and child has a great relationship. Unfortunately, many don't. But no, when she's taking shots at her dad, it is specifically because of his political beliefs, that he is a Trump supporter, that she says he's xenophobic and racist. This is a girl who has been brainwashed. And my heart goes out to her in the future, because I'm hoping that at some point she will grow out of this phase, which for many people, it's what it is. And then unfortunately realized that she probably pushed away her father, who loved her, in service to this cult of left-wing progressivism. And when that day comes, I just, I hope she's able to come to terms with her own actions. I really do, because I can't even, as a child, I can't even imagine being this disrespectful to my parent, let alone at their own funeral. It's just really disappointing. But parents, this is exactly what may happen to your own child. Let's face it. If you just turn a blind eye to what they're watching in the media, to what they are learning in school, to what they're looking at online to social media. So at the very least, let this be a warning to you to not take for granted that these ideologues are absolutely after your kids.
Christ was right. Keep saying that every day I get older since I became a Christian. Christ was right. The Bible was right. The love of many will grow cold. What else does the Bible say? That children will be disobedient to their parents. People will be filled with hatred. That is the epitome of what that is, man. At your father's funeral, still slamming with that political wickedness. That's what that is. That is political wickedness. Just slaying your dead father for his political views. That is where we are in America. But love trumps hate, though, right, Lauren? Love trumps hate, right? Love trumps hate, and the left is loving and caring, and it's a bunch of garbage. Lauren, amazing stuff today. I know that the viewers enjoyed it very much. Where can they continue to hear your great takes, your great views? I know we said it at the top of the show, but there might be more people that joined us here at the end. Where can they follow you, find you, and hear your great work?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to join you, and you do such important work. I'm happy to be a part of it in some small way. So I am on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, Lauren Chen. You can find me basically anywhere there are videos postable, and Facebook as well. I also have a second media channel where we talk about pop culture called Mediaholic. And if you are on Twitter or Instagram, I am at the Lauren Chen.
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. There she goes.
Thanks.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, this is a war for your mind. This is a war for your life. This is a war for your child, your future, and your all and all. This is the spiritual war that we are all in. And if God be for us, who could be against us? We have that hope every single day that we live in this great country. It is still the United States of America. And with us alive, with freedom flooding through our veins, there's still a shot. My name is Drew Hernandez. These are the Front Lines. I'll see you guys on the next one.
We must play offense. Game on.
You expect the rest of the world to live in La La Land. We're not.
We've been saying these things from day one.
Our solemn vow to you, be good, be brief, be gone.
You might find yourself changing your opinion on things you've never even thought twice about. That really sets America apart.
You are not ready for season 2. This is Reloaded.
My life, tale, and my truth has been to fight socialism.
Are you familiar with structural racism?
Yeah, it's a myth.